Bed hungry. Through March 1st, they'll donate $1 from every oil change to Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. Every dollar provides 3 healthy meals. Over the past 14 years, Adam has donated over $890,000, providing more than 2.6 million meals to people across southeast Wisconsin, the majority being children and seniors. And with today's ongoing challenges, the need is greater than ever. So help the hungry while helping your vehicle. Get your oil changed by Adam Dealer Factory Train Techs at a price as low or lower than independent shops. Visit an Adam member dealer near you.
For a list of participating dealers, visit adamm.com.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Power Up Series, brought to you by Swiffer Power Mop. Using a mop and bucket is not the only way to get your floors clean. There's a quicker way. Kick the bucket with the Swiffer Power Mop. It has built-in solution that breaks down dirt and grime, and a pad with 300-plus scrubbing strips that absorb and lock sticky messes. Brought to you by the Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one cleaning tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. Mop smarter with the Swiffer Power Mop.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gerber Law Offices. One call, that's all sports desk. With a record of 11-5, the Packers currently occupy the 7th and final playoff seed in the NFC.
After review of Sunday's 27-25 loss to the Vikings, Packers head coach Matt LaFleur is more frustrated with the internal operation than he is impressed with the opponent.
Honestly, I didn't feel like it was to our standard, and you got to give them credit, but fundamentals and discipline that we did not do a very good job of. And that was disappointing. It just was sloppy football.
The Packers host the Bears Sunday to wrap up the regular season before the postseason begins the following week. So what's the mindset from here on out?
Win every game.
Greg Matzik, WTMJ News.
To move up to the number 6 seed, the Packers will need to beat the Bears on Sunday and hope the Cowboys beat the Commanders. Taking a look at the roads with your Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. All clear on the roads this evening. No incidents, no delays. And taking a look at the WTMJ forecast, tonight cloudy skies, a slight chance for a rainy mix to the south, a low of 37 by the lake and 31 inland. Tuesday, a scattered wintry mix, a light snow late Tuesday, a high of 41. Wednesday, partly cloudy, a high of 32. Thursday, partly cloudy, a high of 25. Friday, partly sunny, a high of 25. And Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high of 26. Right now in Milwaukee, it's 39 degrees. I'm Jessica Gatso, Siding Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 8:07.
Your basketball appointment show starts now. This is Bucks Weekly, your weekly checkup of your Milwaukee Bucks and all around the rest of the NBA. And now here's your host, Justin Garcia.
It is Bucks Weekly on the air as the Bucks enjoy 2 days off here before wrapping up the calendar year tomorrow afternoon in Indianapolis against the Pacers, a rivalry that was certainly building. Starting last year, the Pacers got off to a very slow start this season, but the Pacers and Bucks have, in some ways, been on a collision course in that these two teams have essentially done the same things in the month of December. Indiana has played 2 more games. The Bucks unofficially have one win in there that doesn't count. Of course, the NBA Cup championship against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but the Pacers have slowly started to figure things out here and play much better basketball. They were dealing with a bevy of injuries earlier in the season. They've started to get guys back now. Andrew Nembhard has been huge for this Pacers team of late. He nearly had a triple-double in their last game, an impressive win against the Boston Celtics. So Indianapolis, or Indiana, is looking to get to 500 tomorrow, and the Bucks are looking to avoid a 3-game skid. Now, I talked about this earlier today on another platform in that these losses are disappointing. I don't want to not give that impression, Because, look, you were playing without Giannis and without Damian Lillard for a bulk of these games. You were playing without just Giannis in the loss on Saturday to the Bulls. But you had 3 straight games where both Giannis and Dame were out. You had a chance to win all of those games. The loss to the Brooklyn Nets on Thursday, the loss to the Bulls on Saturday, it would be one thing if the Bucks just came out flat, and especially that Nets game, no Dame, no Giannis. You could say, look, the firepower isn't there. It's a Nets team that's hitting shots. And in fairness, they started to hit shots as that game progressed. But if you just kind of saw from the start, they don't have the horses. You know, with 60 points out of the lineup, they don't have enough offense to match. And it was a non-competitive game. In some ways, you would be more willing to accept that than what we saw. 2 straight games where, despite being undermanned, despite being down those 60 points with no Giannis and with no Dame against the Nets, despite not having Giannis against the Chicago Bulls, not only were those 2 very winnable games, those were 2 games that the Bucks, for small stretches, controlled, but should have won. And look, I don't want to jump to full-sail conclusions here because of the fact that the asterisk we apply to this with no Giannis and Damian Lillard. But these are important games because these are the types of games that you look back on in late March, in April, in the last week of the regular season, and you see, okay, the Bucks are tied with, let's say, the Magic or the New York Knicks, or they're a game back, and you just think, I wish we just had one game that could have gone differently. These are those types of games. So those performances are what drops you a seed line every single year. It's not just the Bucks. A number of teams can point to those. But it's especially important now, and why I mentioned Pacers are trying to get to 500. The Bucks are trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak. It's important because the Eastern Conference as a whole, it just seems like they're starting to find their sea legs. The Magic are still dealing with a number of injuries, but the New York Knicks, up and down early in the season, they changed their identity much like the Bucks did a season ago. It seems like they found that stability of late here, and they've been playing much, much better. They're about to cruise to a win tonight against the Washington Wizards and continue to pad their lead over those teams 4 and lower. So the Knicks are going to be 23-10. That's a half game back of the Boston Celtics for the 2 seed now. Boston's been 500 in their last 10 games. The Cavaliers still winning 90% of their games in those small chunks. They're 27-4 on the season. But the story of late has been Cavs continuing to play very solid. The Knicks, 8-2 in their last 10. The Atlanta Hawks continuing to rack up some wins. Pacers have won 7 of their last 10. Sixers have won 7 of their last 10. So you're seeing more and more of these teams that are starting to piece together win streaks or 6 or 7 wins in their last 10 games. And meanwhile, the Bucks have been 500 in their last 10 games. So slowly but surely, things are starting to settle in the Eastern Conference, and that's why it's important to halt this losing streak and make sure it doesn't reach 3. Because you get the sense those standings are going to be very bunched up from here on out. Knicks and Celtics right there for the 2 seed, but starting with the Magic at the 4, all the way down to the Pistons at the 10 seed, all the way down to the 76ers at the 11 seed. 3 games in the loss column is what separates that mix. So when you get these winnable games, when you have these games where you are in position to win, it's imperative to close these things out for that reason. Now, we don't have exact answers yet. The Bucks have submitted their initial injury report for tomorrow's game. We'll take a look at that when we come back on Bucks Weekly.
We know what you're thinking, and all we can tell you is to drive careful.
Yep, Wisconsin roads are no joke this time of year, especially when you're driving on old, worn-out tires.
Schedule yourself a tire appointment with Richlands. We carry all sorts of tire brands, including Goodyear, Kelly, Continental, and General, to name a few.
And every tire we install automatically comes with free tire mounting, free lifetime tire rotation, free flat tire repairs, and free alignment inspections.
Not to mention free wheel corrosion cleaning, lifetime warranty spin balance, and prorated tire protection.
Let's just say if you're driving around town, especially this time of year on old worn out tires, you're due for tire service.
Courtney's right. And remember, be safe, buckle up, and hey, always make sure you have good tread on your tires because cold, wet, icy roads are no joke. I'm Brett Matchke with Richlands, and you're due for service.
Richlands Tire and Service, such a refreshing change. Richlands.
Traffic is brought to you by Rejuvenix, your non-surgical joint therapy experts.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
Patrick and Monica initially chose a bank to get pre-approved and provide financing for the purchase of their first home. But they were getting a bad feeling when a week after their offer was accepted, the bank still hadn't locked in their rate, nor had the appraisal been ordered. Monica shared her concerns with a friend who happened to be a multi-time Accunet client. That led to Monica connecting with one of our senior loan consultants the same day, and after gathering some information and reviewing options, we locked in their rate right then and there with loan costs $3,600 lower than what the bank had quoted. The appraisal was ordered right away too, and the loan closed on time just 3 weeks later. We also noticed an oversight in the contract that led to a $3,000 credit from the seller. You can get a generic pre-approval and average or worse service from a bank, or you can get the kind of fast service, advice, attention to detail, and savings that made Monica and Patrick Accunet's latest raving fans. All you got to do to get started is click on the blue button at Accunet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
So tomorrow night, you wrap up the calendar year in Indianapolis against the Pacers, and we're still in wait-and-see mode as we look at the injury report. I think the best news of all of this on the injury report is you got Chris Middleton playing in back-to-back games. He's once again listed as probable on the injury report. Damian Lillard is not listed as all. We saw him make his return against the Chicago Bulls. So there's no lingering effects there from either the calf or that illness that not just Dame, but a number of players have been dealing with on this Bucks squad. And the big one is Giannis, who is still listed as questionable with that illness. So it is very likely going to be a game time decision in whether or not we see Giannis play tomorrow against the Pacers. So you get the sense it's something we won't know until around 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. As for the Pacers, the only injury of note is Aaron Nesmith, who's still out dealing with a left ankle sprain. They got a couple of bigs that have been down since very early in the season, both suffering a torn Achilles in Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman. But other than that, a relatively healthy Pacers team that have started to get some pieces back. And again, they're starting to play a lot better. What they did against the Boston Celtics is especially troubling, and why, look, you want to have Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor for you every single game here, and he brings a lot of importance to this Bucks team. But against the Pacers specifically, when you look at what they did against the Boston Celtics in finding their success offensively in that game, a 123-114 win yesterday, they got into the paint. And you look back at that loss Saturday to the Bulls, you look at aspects of that loss to the Brooklyn Nets on Thursday, but really that Bulls game and the second game of the year against the Bulls had a lot of similar vibes to them in that the Bulls dictated the pace. Josh Giddey especially was huge for the Bulls. It wasn't just the threes that he was hitting, and Doc Rivers talked about this after the game as well. He was the guy that was dictating pace throughout the game. He was getting into the lane. He's worked on that floater. He was finishing with that. He was finding open shooters. I think it was much more pronounced the second game of the season, the first matchup between the Bucks and the Bulls, where the Bulls were just getting into the paint. The Bucks defense hadn't quite blossomed into what it's been so far in that game, but they were in scramble mode with the Bulls getting into the paint and either scoring or springing it out to open shooters and knocking down threes. That's how the Pacers beat the Celtics yesterday. And you're able to do that much more efficiently. It goes without saying in games where Giannis doesn't play. And it's not just the individual defense of Giannis. It's the fact that you have two rim protectors on the floor where you can have Brook Lopez playing at the rim. You can have Giannis come over as the helper. It's much more difficult to score or even get the ball out of the paint when you're driving to the lane and kicking out there when that's the case. Wasn't there yesterday or Saturday against the Bulls. We saw what it did for the Bulls offense. Wasn't there for the Celtics in that matchup yesterday against the Pacers because they were playing without their best perimeter defender in Drew Holiday and without their rim protector in Kristaps Porzingis. And the Pacers exploited it to the tune of 66 points in the paint, a rarity where the Pacers won with very limited threes. Just 9 made three-pointers. They were outscored by 21 on threes in that game. And were still pretty much in command, led by as many as 16. They led for the majority of the duration of that game. So it is going to be important to have your rim protection in tip-top shape tomorrow against the Indiana Pacers. One person that would know all about that and diagramming both sides of the basketball is Bucks head coach Doc Rivers. He is this week's guest on Courtside with the Milwaukee Bucks. You'll hear that conversation after this on Bucks Weekly.
So how do you underpromise and still get the job? We believe in our hearts we're going to do great work for you. We're just really careful about making unrealistic promises. At Semper Fi, we refuse to set the bar higher than we can jump. But be assured, that's the goal. To do all we can to jump as high as possible to try to exceed your expectations. We're looking to break records. That's how you win over customers, get really great referrals, and build a great business. When you're making a decision to hire an exterior remodeling company, character, integrity, and the feeling that the people you're about to hire are truly eager to show you how good they are should stand at the top of your list. This is Brad Youngluth with Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. For your new roof, siding, window and door installation, or masonry work, you can count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry, Semper Fi.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here, asking you to join me in October as my wife and I explore the magical kingdoms of Southeast Asia, from the villages of Vietnam and the temples of Cambodia to the friendly locals of Laos and the beachside resort in stunning, lively Thailand. I hope you'll join us for this unforgettable journey. Ancient and mysterious worlds of rural landscapes, bustling cities, and fascinating history in Vietnam. Explore the Chu Chi tunnels used by the Viet Cong. Experience a street food adventure through Hanoi and cherish the serenity of Hai Long Bay on a beautiful boat ride. Bangkok in Thailand, the beaches in Thailand, history, tradition, food. If you'd like more information on this great trip, send me an email. john.mercure@wtmj.com. john.mercure@wtmj.com. It's Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. I'm super jazzed about this trip. Send me an email. I send you the info. john.mercure, MERCURE, @wtmj.com.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ. The next era of Bucks basketball is here.
On Courtside tonight, it's Dame time. Our guest, Bucks star Damian Lillard.
Like, I got there and they was like, this is for you. And I was like, man, is this what happens when, when dudes get traded?
This is Courtside with Gail Klappa.
He's the Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer of the NBA, Mark Tatum.
Well, look, the Bucks are a championship-level team. There's no doubt about that.
The source for the inside scoop on every dribble, drawn-up play, and decision made.
The head of the herd, the head coach of the Bucks, Doc Rivers.
I want to get this thing right. I want to win. We want to win.
Now, here's your host, Gail Klappa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gail Klappa, and this is Courtside. It's that time of year. The ball drops, the calendar turns, and the NBA season kicks into high gear. So where do we stand with nearly 40% of the campaign now in the books? For Bucks fans, the early going was tough. Then the defense started clicking, the wins started coming, and it was a fun time grabbing the NBA Cup in Vegas. But the holidays found the team shorthanded. Some sort of respiratory bug ripped through the locker room. The Bucks dropped some close games they could have won. Tonight, we take stock of it all with one of the most respected veterans of the NBA wars. He's had 25 years of success patrolling the sidelines. Our guest is the head of the herd, the head coach of the Bucks, Doc Rivers. Doc, great to sit down with you here on Courtside.
Hey, Bill, great to talk to you.
Well, Doc, thanks again for joining us, and let's start with that virus that's been hitting the team. Have you been able to avoid it?
I've been able to avoid it, but I would rather have it and the players not get it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, over the past few weeks, as you know, I believe Giannis, Dame, and Chris Middleton were all hit by the virus. And Doc, Dame has said he's never been so sick in his life.
Yeah, it's funny. All three have said that. Giannis told me today that he has never felt like he has felt. He's finally feeling better, obviously, today. And I called it today the good player virus. Only your best players on your team get it, I guess.
Yeah, and the head coach avoids it. Yeah, that's life, right?
Yes, that's life. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, too, because I like the way the schedule pointed towards us after the, the Cup. I thought we could make a pretty big run here, and then we get hit with, a little bit of injury, but really more the virus kind of knocked us out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, physically, Doc, as you know, Damian Lillard has had to play through a lot of adversity so far this season, a concussion, a calf strain, and then the virus. But, Coach, it seems from looking at it from the court side that the Bucks are beginning to maximize the assets that he brings to the courts. Your thought?
Yeah, for sure. You can see it visually if you're just a fan and watch the games. He's more comfortable. He's more vocal, Gail. He last year didn't do a lot of talking. Really felt like it wasn't his place, even though it was. Now, he when he sees something he likes or don't like, he says it. He's far more aggressive, and the team trusts him. So all those things have come together for Dame.
Doc, I saw a statistic the other day that I thought was telling. In this season so far, with Chris being out for, I think, the first 21 games, and the sickness, obviously, and the concussion with Dame, and then Giannis being out a bit, the big three, Dame, Giannis, and Chris Middleton, have only been on the court together for 4 games, and during your tenure, only 12 times have the three been on the court. That has got to be a bit frustrating for you.
It is. Last year was frustrating. This year even more so. But, I keep trying to look at the big picture, Gail. We still have time. But the more seconds, the more minutes they can be together, obviously it helps us because of continuity and just getting comfortable with each other. All three guys are scorers, and so they need to play on the floor together to figure out the best way to make room for each other. And they just haven't had the ability to do that yet.
Coach, switching gears a bit, you've consistently said that you want the identity of the Bucks to be based on exceptional defense. As we've gotten deeper in the season, the team's defensive rating has clearly improved. What's fueling the improvement, Doc?
Gail, we revamped the entire defense, and I got to say, I thought it would come a little quicker. I did say, before the season, it's going to take a second. It took longer than we wanted, to start the season. And on top of that, we couldn't make shots. And that probably responded to our record early on. But everybody, you could see it, people buying in. And it takes a buy-in, Gail, from your entire team. And getting Giannis and Chris and Bobby and Brooke, all the vets, to buy into doing something different than what they've done. It took a little bit, but they've done it, and they love it now. And you can see that this team now has a pride about their defense, and that's going to serve us well in the future.
And, Doc, you made a change in the starting lineup a few weeks ago to inject more defensive intensity, right?
Yeah, I thought Dre was a perfect choice for us because when you looked at our roster before, everybody on the floor kind of wanted to score. And I'm looking at us, and I'm thinking, we need one guy that just wants to defend and wants to do all the other little things, the dirty work. And Dre fits that image perfect for us.
Makes a lot of sense, and we'll have more with Doc Rivers right after this. It's Courtside on WTMJ.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just one dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Many times, patients have symptoms they didn't know were actually related to their airway breathing issues.
I was suffering from sinus issues, jaw issues, and neck pain. I guess I just kind of had my breaking point.
Unfortunately, this is typical. But until you get to the root of your problem, it's going to just persist. Fortunately, Jody took action, and the results were typical as well.
My quality of life is so different, but one of the first things that I noticed was my breathing. I don't ever remember being able to breathe like that.
Being able to breathe freely is life-changing, and the effects can go beyond that.
Sleeping better, having more energy, and it seemed as if all of those symptoms that I had just melted away.
And thank heavens for that, because at Advent, results are what drive us, helping you breathe well so you can live better.
Results may vary. Most insurance accepted.
This is Bucks Weekly on WTMJ. Here is more Courtside with Gale and Bucks head coach Doc Rivers.
Doc, on offense, Giannis been absolutely tearing it up this year, leads the league in points scored per game. Tell our listeners, if you will, what Giannis is focused on to continue to improve his game this year.
Well, we worked all summer. I asked him to go to a place that he hadn't been, and that's the elbows. And I showed him on film that if you catch the ball live with a live dribble on the elbow, you can see the help, and you're one dribble away from the rim. And that's the one shot that we really worked on him trying to take and make, is that little elbow jump shot. And he's doing all those things. He's been a great scorer for us, Gale, but I'm most proud of his passing and him getting his teammates involved.
And his assist numbers have gone up again, so I think you're having some success with trying to coach him to be a phenomenal passer as well.
Yeah, it's so important for our team. When the best players pass the ball, everybody else plays better.
And Chris Middleton has returned to action after rehabbing from ankle surgery this past summer. Coach, how close do you think we are to seeing the Chris Middleton of old?
Gale, we're getting there. I don't think we're that close yet, honestly. You can see in some of his movements, maybe more on the defensive end than the offensive end. He's turning the ball over at a pretty high rate for Chris, and that's partly due to not playing. The tough part for us, you're kind of in a pickle. You got to allow him to play through it because you don't have a lot of practice dates for him to work himself through it. So we're doing it on the go, and he's getting there.
And, Doc, there was a scary moment the other night in Chicago when Chris was taking a three-point shot, landed on the ankle or foot of another player, and it looked like tweaked his ankle. We saw Chris pounding the court. Can you give us an update on his condition?
Yeah, he's good. He practiced today. He moved pretty well. So I think he's pretty good. But it was scary. You remember last year, I think it was in Phoenix, the exact same thing happened, and he missed 6 weeks. So trust me, when I saw him go down, there was not a lot of good thoughts coming out at that moment.
I can imagine. Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Bobby Portis, who really shined during the month of December. We sat down with Bobby right before Christmas, and Doc, he said emphatically that you have instilled more confidence in him than any other coach he's ever played for. How have you done that?
Well, I believe in him. And, when I got the job and I got here, I told him that he should be a dominant offensive player. And when he comes in the game, I thought he needed to run the floor more. He's done that. I encouraged him to look for more threes. He's done that. And where I really have pushed him is down on the post, where he's been fantastic. A lot of bigs, and Gail, you've been around the game. You've seen a lot of bigs just don't have the energy that Bobby has. Bobby brings energy to our basketball team, and we need it, and I've encouraged it.
And for a moment, let's talk about Taurean Prince, newcomer to the Bucs. He was in the starting lineup for a number of games when Chris Middleton was rehabbing. Coach, how is his physical condition? Has he gotten beaten up a bit?
He's been beat up a little bit. You can see it right now. But he moves really well for us still. He's got a great toughness. And you're not going to get a better veteran player than him. You just not. He does everything that we ask him to do, and that's all you could ask for.
Coach, if you will, talk with us about what you're seeing in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland and Boston are obviously up top. The Bucs started off this week in the 5th spot. How do you think we're positioned at this point?
Well, right now we want to be higher. It is important, especially you want to get home court in the first round, obviously. Do whatever you can to get there. We would love home court in the second round. It's a long year, Gail. The teams at the top have all been healthy. Very few injuries, none for Cleveland for the most part. Boston always has theirs, but they're the team, obviously, to beat. Cleveland is playing unbelievable basketball. They're playing the best basketball in the NBA, maybe, not only just the East. But then you have New York. I think the biggest surprise to me is Orlando because of their injuries, and yet they continue to win. Jamal has done an amazing coaching job there.
And do you think they can continue on that roll with the injuries they have, Doc?
I don't know. Honestly, Gail, I thought so early on, but I thought they would struggle with the Big Hero out. Then the other kid goes out, and they keep winning. So you just got to give them credit. One thing, when you play them, you better play hard because that's how they play.
Yeah. And the Hawks seem to be on a bit of a roll as well.
Hawks are dangerous, and Miami's dangerous. The East gets a lot of flack this year, but if you stack the top 6 teams in the East versus the top 6 teams in the West, the East is pretty strong. It's the bottom tier that makes the East look worse than what the conference really is.
And finally, Doc, the last word. What message would you like to deliver to Bucs fans everywhere?
I love our team, and we're so close to being that team that you saw in the Cup consistently. We just need a stretch of health.
And let's hope that stretch of health begins this week. Doc, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for sitting down with us. You've been listening to Courtside on WTMJ. Happy New Year, everyone.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to NewNordicUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you, New Nordic.
I haven't had anything to eat for days, and being hungry hurts.
Going without oil changes can destroy your engine, but it doesn't compare to the effect of going without food. That's why the Automobile Dealers Association of Metro Milwaukee is determined to make sure no one goes to bed hungry. Through March 1st, they'll donate $1 from every oil change to Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. Every dollar provides 3 healthy meals. Over the past 14 years, Adam has donated over $890,000, providing more than 2.6 million meals to people across southeast Wisconsin, the majority being children and seniors. And with today's ongoing challenges, the need is greater than ever. So help the hungry while helping your vehicle. Get your oil changed by Adam Dealer Factory Train Techs at a price as low or lower than independent shops. Visit an Adam member dealer near you.
For a list of participating dealers, visit ADAMM.com.
When you're due for tire service, visit richlands.com for the location nearest you.
We'll give you free flat tire repair on every tire we install. No questions asked. I'm Brett Matchke with Richlands. You're due for service.
Richlands. Richlands.
Artwork, especially original artwork, can be pricey. But when you take it in on consignment from nice people like you who are just ready to change the look of their home, you can price it right. And you'll find a lot of it at Design Exchange. Beautiful frame pieces by a number of notable artists. And new ones pop in all the time. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating tastes come to find premium home decor at a value. In Heartland and Pewaukee.
Design Exchange.
In Heartland, you're going to find a focus on distinctive furniture, unique antiques, and original artwork, along with tasteful home decor that can fit almost any budget. In Pewaukee, the focus is on kitchen, outdoor, and garden decor, and all of it is priced at 25 to 40% off retail. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating tastes come to find premium home decor on consignment at a value.
Design Exchange.
Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
All right, so as we mentioned, the final game of the calendar year tomorrow for the Bucks in Indianapolis against the Pacers. We do not know the status of Giannis Antetokounmpo for that game. It is likely something we won't find out either right before the game or when we hear from Doc Rivers tomorrow at roughly 12:30. 2 o'clock tip tomorrow. Make note of that. It is matinee basketball to ring in the new year here. But in many ways, I mentioned this earlier, these two teams, at least for the month of December, and the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers, have almost been the Spider-Man meme come to life when you just look at where they both stack up offensively and defensively. Looking at the four factors. So these are the four statistical groups, offense and defense. Most league personnel will tell you this is what they look at to really gauge success and see, okay, other than a win-loss record, what's really working for this team? Your effective field goal percentage, your turnover rate, in other words, what percentage of your possessions as a team end in a turnover? How well are you offensively rebounding the basketball? What's your offensive rebound rate? And free throw rate. So just as we said with turnovers, what's the percentage of possessions you run that result in you getting to the free throw line? Same ones apply to the defensive end. In the month of December, Bucks are 6-5. The Pacers are 7-6. Now, again, the Bucks, to our eyes, are 7-5, beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the final of the NBA Cup. But that game doesn't count, obviously. When we look at all four of those numbers, the four factors, and we look at offensive rating and defensive rating, Bucks are 12th in net rating at 1.6. They're one game above 500. 1.6, just barely better than average, adds up to a 6-5 record. The Indiana Pacers have a net rating of 1.4. Adds up to a 7-6 record. That makes sense. Offensively, Bucks are 17th in the league in the month of December. We got some thoughts on that we'll get to in the next segment. It is clearly not good enough. Now, just as we said, these two losses that you had, it's tough to make any definitive statements when one of those games didn't have Giannis or Damian Lillard. The other game didn't have Giannis. But still, that offensive number has to be better. Like, we've seen enough from this defense, I think, to believe this is not fool's gold. Coming into the season, I know one of the larger discussions that I had on this show and other shows was, can the Bucks push for 13, somewhere around there defensively? In the back of your mind, and we've talked about this before, I was certainly optimistic it was going to be better, and you pointed to the addition of Greg Buckner. Stability, another big piece of it. Like, you think about, since it ties into the time of the year, you think about all the gifts that the Bucks have gotten this season, the impact of the young players, and Andre Jackson Jr. and A.J. Green, the new coaches, right? Greg Buckner and what he's brought with that defense, the return of Darvin Ham, health again from Giannis and Damian Lillard. Giannis playing even better than he did a year ago when he was the first player in league history to average 30 points and shoot 60% or better from the field. There's a number of things. The offseason moves. Gary Trent Jr. and what he's blossomed into. Taurean Prince and the boost that he gave you, especially early in the season when you did not have Chris Middleton. The point is, there's a number of things you can point to when you say, hey, what's the best gift that the Bucks have gotten this year? What I did not mention and what I would make the case for is stability. Like I joked last year, Doc Rivers basically got to audit the class. Came in late January, took over officially in February, but got a head start on seeing, all right, here's where I can learn about these young guys. Here's some of the things that I see Giannis and Damian Lillard doing that don't work. And I think you should do this a little bit differently. We just heard him talking about his belief in Bobby Portis and getting to view his game up close. Make some notes and say, okay, guys, we saw all of this stuff last year. Let's do these things differently. A big piece of stability. But just the overall chemistry. Not just Doc Rivers reacclimating or acclimating, I should say, himself with this group. Last year, I mentioned the Knicks earlier on the show that they revamped their identity in the offseason. If it sounds familiar, it's because it is. It's exactly what the Bucks did in the last year. The Bucks were a defensive team. Every single year under Mike Budenholzer. We oftentimes think of the Bucks as this offensive group because of Giannis. And because the Bucks were one of the best offenses in the league each of those years under Bud. They didn't win a title in 2021 because of their offense. They won because they had one of the better playoff defenses we had seen in the last decade plus. Their playoff defense, their defense overall was elite. That was their identity. They were the grinded out team. They were going to make you work. They were a physical defense. Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez were the perfect fit. A defensive team. You had just enough offense the year you won the title. You go into the offseason last year, and they did a 180. You trade Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. You're doing that to become an offensive team. I don't want to relitigate the trade itself. I've shared my thoughts many times. Again, just revisiting that last part, the offense was not good enough year in, year out, especially in the half court. So this was the old, what's the definition of insanity? Well, we can't keep losing this way. We've got to try something differently. And that's what they did. But that takes time to change your identity, to find your identity. I mean, think about how many times last year and early this season, through the first 10 games of the season, we heard Doc Rivers say, we don't know what our identity is. I do think if not found it, they're pretty far down the path to understanding what their identity is. But I mention all this just because it takes time for all of that to properly bake. For Damian Lillard and Giannis to develop and optimize and enhance that chemistry between the two of them, Damian Lillard and his other teammates, the role players, to figure out, how do I fit in with this group now? When we did things a little differently a couple of years ago, and now we have two elite offensive players in Dame and Giannis. We got Chris Middleton, who's pretty good himself. So that changes roles for me. How do I find my proper role here? The defense that Doc Rivers has said very vaguely, we're doing everything completely different. We've changed it quite a bit. And I think to the naked eye, there's a lot of similarities to the defense the Bucks ran under Mike Budenholzer to what we're seeing here. And that's not surprising when we continue to ask, could this defense be even better than, that 12 or 13 number that I said optimistically before the season started? That's what you were hoping for. But just the sheer fact of Brook Lopez and Giannis, two rim protectors, one extremely versatile rim protector in Giannis who can get out there on the perimeter as well. Maybe you don't have the best perimeter defenders, but you feel like you massively upgraded top to bottom. your roster in terms of the individual defenders from a season ago. You have more connectivity with 1 year of these guys playing together and understanding what to expect. But also looking back to that Cavs defense with Greg Buckner, that was routinely a top 10 defense, a couple years in the top 4 defensively. That also, they have Isaac Okoro. But other than that, I don't think anybody would make a case that the Cavaliers had elite perimeter defenders. And similar to what we've heard a lot of critics suggest with Damian Lillard, you may have liabilities in the backcourt when you think about the size of Darius Garland. Same with Donovan Mitchell, when that's your 2-guard, an undersized 2-guard, not known for their defense, that there are some issues there. But despite all of that, despite an undersized backcourt, despite the lack of true premier wing defenders, the Cavaliers still managed to put forth a very, very good defense because of those two bigs, because of Jarrett Allen, your more traditional rim protector, and because of Evan Mobley, who can protect the rim, who can take on tougher defensive assignments. And I know it's not a like for like, but you came into the season saying, can the Bucks do that with two guys that comp pretty similarly to that duo? And so far, that's what we've seen. The Bucks, when healthy and when Giannis and Brook Lopez are on the floor, they're taking away those shots at the rim. They have not had shooting luck to the point where the opponents are missing all of their threes. They haven't had the other form of luck where opponents are hitting all their threes. They've been somewhere in the middle, which again gives you better takeaways, that there hasn't been that large variance one way or the other to say, look, we're more connected. Taurean Prince was a big upgrade for us defensively. Ryan Rollins and the boost that he's given you has been a big impact for you. Gary Trent Jr. is a gambler who can give you some defensive plays as well, that you've upgraded your individual defenders. You have more institutional knowledge as a team of what you want to do as a unit. And you have those two guys that are taking away the easiest and most efficient shots in the league. It has done wonders for improving your defense. Now the trick is, which who would have thought we'd be saying this? Okay, now do it with your offense, because of those numbers that we pointed out. Has not been good enough. Has not been up to snuff so far this season. 17th in the month of December. But they're hovering around 20 at times for the season as a whole. You need to be healthy. You need more of a runway with Giannis, Damian Lillard, and Chris Middleton on the floor together. But that's the next thing the Bucks have to do. We've mentioned a couple of those next. You got to start to beat some of those good teams. They have. You can't get it back against the Cavs and the Celtics. So the games you have left against the Magic and the Knicks, those are important games. But they've started to beat better teams. You know, the Rockets, the Hawks, the run through the Cup, the Magic. You beat the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Now the next thing is, okay, get an extended look with those three players on the floor. We will wrap things up and continue to take a look at tomorrow's matchup with the Indiana Pacers after this on Bucks Weekly.
AccuNet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
Patrick and Monica initially chose a bank to get pre-approved and provide financing for the purchase of their first home. But they were getting a bad feeling when a week after their offer was accepted, the bank still hadn't locked in their rate, nor had the appraisal been ordered. Monica shared her concerns with a friend who happened to be a multi-time AccuNet client. That led to Monica connecting with one of our senior loan consultants the same day, and after gathering some information and reviewing options, we locked in their rate right then and there with loan costs $3,600 lower than what the bank had quoted. The appraisal was ordered right away too, and the loan closed on time just 3 weeks later. We also noticed an oversight in the contract that led to a $3,000 credit from the seller. You can get a generic pre-approval and average or worse service from a bank, or you can get the kind of fast service, advice, attention to detail, and savings that made Monica and Patrick AccuNet's latest raving fans. All you got to do to get started is click on the blue button at AccuNet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
Traffic is brought to you by Rejuvenix, your non-surgical joint therapy experts.
What's on your wrist, Ben?
A watch.
The other wrist.
Oh, I'm handcuffed to a briefcase containing secret plans.
Why?
We can't let these secret plans fall into the wrong hands.
What secret plans?
This briefcase contains the specifications for the mother of all penny mustard bedroom collections.
The colonial bedroom?
Quiet, Nicole.
It's no secret the colonial bedroom is gorgeous.
American made with solid wood and forever tight bed brackets.
And the drawer bottom's strong enough to stand on.
Will you please keep it down?
In Penny Mustard's 3-decade existence, there's never been a bedroom more carefully constructed than the Colonial Collection.
Precisely why these trade secrets need to stay under wraps.
Heck no. We need to tell the world about the Colonial Bedroom.
You'd make a terrible spy, Arvid.
The Colonial Bedroom, starting at just $248 a month with only 1 penny down and no interest till January of 2028 through January 12th at Penny Mustard.
Showrooms in Milwaukee and Chicago.
PennyMustard.com.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
So just to finish off that point on the similarities between the Bucks and the Pacers in the month of December, 6-5 for the Bucks, 7-6 for the Indiana Pacers, 17th in offensive rating for the Bucks, 13th for the Indiana Pacers. So the Bucks have been close to the bottom 10 in offense, top 10 in defense. The Pacers have been middle of the pack in both, 13 offensively, 15th defensively. They are both in the top 10 in effective field goal percentage and turnover rate. Bucks are 6th, Pacers are 7th. In effective field goal percentage, that is. And in turnover rate, Bucks are 9th, Pacers are 5th. Neither of these teams crashed the offensive boards. The Bucks are still last. The Pacers are second to last. Bucks have a 20% offensive rebounding rate. The league average is 27%, so it's not good for either of these teams. The Pacers are just under 21%. Both teams, middle of the pack in where they get to the free throw line or amount of times they get to the free throw line. And defensively, again, mirror images, basically. Bucks are 10th overall. Pacers are 15th. Opponent effective field goal percentage. Bucks are 13th. Pacers are 12th. Turnover rate. The amount of possessions or percentage of them that end with you forcing a turnover. Bucks are 20th. Pacers are 23rd. Up and down the list. Bucks are 4th in defensive rebounding. Pacers are 8th. So these two teams have been very similar. And again, I do think it's as simple as, look, they've both had relatively favorable schedules. I know the Pacers have just had 2 games with the Boston Celtics and split those, but they have both also started to get healthy. It's interesting when you look at below the Bucks and everything beneath that in the standings. Right now, the Bucks are 6th. With those 2 losses over the weekend, with the Atlanta Hawks winning 4 straight games now. Knicks have won 7 in a row, by the way. But the other teams that we mentioned, the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, they've basically been 500. Pacers have been playing pretty well. So it's still going to be bunched up there for quite some time. You get that sense. So who is going to be the team in that group? We've seen it already from the Knicks, where, again, they're a half game back of the Boston Celtics for the 2 seed right now. I do think it's a foregone conclusion, barring injuries. The Cavaliers are going to be the 1 seed. They're still playing at a 70-win pace and get no attention, get no mention of that. In some ways, it reminds you of what the Bucks did in the 2019-2020 season when they were on pace at one point for 73 wins before ultimately losing, I think, 2 of their last 3 before the world shut down in March of 2020. But who is going to be that team in the group of 4 through 8, I think is the cutoff there? Magic, Hawks, Bucks, Heat, and Pacers. I mean, we can include the Philadelphia 76ers as well, who are 12-17 now on the season and won 3 straight games. But the point is, who's going to be that team that goes on a charge and separates themselves from the rest of the pack, like we've seen the Knicks start to do now, like we have seen the Cleveland Cavaliers do since the start of this season? the schedule still gives you a lot of optimism that it will be the Bucks. It is not until January 8th that you will play a team above 500 when Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs come to Fiserv Forum. So tomorrow's going to be a big test. Hopefully you get the big fella back for that one. We should know shortly before the game the status on Giannis. It's a 2 o'clock tip tomorrow. Make note of that tip time. 1:30 is when our pregame coverage begins. And a Bucks shoot-around to get your coverage started at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Of course, be sure to tune in after the game for Bucks Talk. We will talk to you then.
A buck doesn't buy much unless you're spending it at Griffin. For just $1 over cost, you can buy brand new tires from us. This is Jim Griffin.